My cousin asked my daughter to perform at her wedding, then accused her of upstaging the bride after she got praised for her performance. Now my daughter hates her life because of the lies being spread on Facebook. The reason I'm posting is because of my daughter, who has been struggling in the aftermath of a recent performance. I'm sorry in advance for how long this turned out, but I would greatly appreciate any advice from fellow aerialists. My cousin, Dana, had her wedding 2 weeks ago, and she asked if my daughter, Jane, could perform at her reception. Jane has practiced silk/lyra for the past few years at a nearby circus studio, and she's also performed with Slash through the studio at small gigs. She hopes to continue into adulthood and become a professional teacher, but this recent incident has shaken her confidence. She has a private Instagram to document her progress and performances, and I only post certain performances on my Facebook, her first gig with the studio and her first recital, to name a few we're proud of. Some of our relatives saw her performances through my social media, and they watched her perform at her studio's Christmas recital when we hosted Christmas at our home a few years ago, something that surprised her when they visited early to see her. I loved how they coordinated that, and Jane said it was her loudest cheering section to date. Dana was one of the relatives who came early to see her Christmas recital, and she's always been super supportive. She asked me if Jane would be willing to perform at the reception, and I asked on her behalf. Jane was honored and excited when I did, and we already had a portable rig for her, though we ended up renting a taller one from her studio. Dana got the idea from a YouTube video featuring an aerialist who performed at a wedding reception, and she showed us while requesting white silks and a white outfit. We scoped out the venue and purchased white silks along with a white costume that Dana approved of, and Jane was really excited throughout. Jane even worked on choreography to a song that Dana requested, and she put a lot of time into it, even asking one of her coaches to help her with it. Dana insisted on paying her for the gig despite Jane not expecting to be paid, and she gave her a few $100s. However, Dana has since had a change of heart. Jane received a standing ovation after her performance, which surprised her, but we didn't know anything was wrong until Dana went on Facebook a few days later. Dana said she didn't approve of the outfit Jane wore and that she had specifically told her not to wear white. She also claimed that my husband and I pressured her into having Jane perform and that the performance gave off an unclassy vibe, lies that my husband and I couldn't believe. We had sent Dana numerous costume links and purchased the one she liked. There was also nothing wrong with Jane's performance. Dana was one of the people cheering afterward. Jane received nothing but compliments, but I'm disgusted that she had to see that post after all the work she put into it. For what it's worth, the post had comments disabled. I called Dana to confront her about the lies, but she didn't pick up despite numerous calls. I then called her parents, who, like us, had received messages about her post. They said that Dana was wrong, apologized on her behalf, and expressed their own disgust. Dana's mom also told me that Dana had vented to her before making the post. She said Dana regretted asking Jane to perform because of the attention, compliments and cheers Jane received. Dana's mom also said Dana felt upstaged by Jane wearing white and hearing how good she was. Dana's parents tried calling her after she made the post, but she didn't answer. Their previous conversation had ended with them telling Dana she shouldn't be bitter, especially since she specifically asked Jane to perform. Dana's parents reported the post, as did we and others, and we've shared the truth with those who reached out. We also made a post to explain our side and stand up for Jane. We have text proof of sending the costume links that Dana chose. Dana's parents also requested to talk to Jane on the phone to apologize for Dana's behavior. My husband and I told Jane that Dana was wrong and that we'll be distancing ourselves from her permanently. Dana's behavior surprised us, as we'd seen her grow up. Granted, we only see extended family for Thanksgiving and Christmas because we live far away, but other relatives were surprised too, as this seemed to come out of left field. Maybe there's a side of Dana we'll never know from our limited holiday and milestone interactions, but our focus is on Jane. We've tried to cheer Jane up by offering to take her to dinner and suggesting other activities, but she's been hurting, which is why I'm here. Jane hasn't practiced, at home or the studio, since the reception, and I don't want to invade her space at the studio by asking or telling anyone there, in case she doesn't want them to know. She asked me to return the white silks and costume after being so excited to receive them. She's also said she's going to take an extended break from aerial to reconsider if she wants to continue. Beyond aerial, she's taken a break from seeing non-aerial friends too, choosing to pretty much keep to herself. We would appreciate any advice from fellow aerialists on how to lift her spirits. We've reminded her of how proud we are, along with the many compliments she received, but she's asked for space and for us not to talk about it. We're going to respect that and let time do its thing, but we'll consider any advice from other aerialists who can relate to the time and work she put in. Sorry for this being so long, but we appreciate anyone who reads and takes the time to reply. Update 2 weeks later. Before I get into what's happened since my last post, I want to thank everyone who took the time to comment. Two pieces of advice really stood out, and I'll get to them shortly. Since my original post, Dana's Facebook post is gone. I don't know if she deleted it or if enough people reported it for Facebook to remove it, but we're glad it's gone. She never apologized to us, or Jane, or even bothered to call, so our position on being permanently done with Dana stands. My husband and I made a post on my Facebook addressing the lies she spread about our daughter. We shared photo proof of Dana's text where she approved of Jane's white costume from links we sent, not to mention the song choice she provided. Better yet, Dana's mother reposted it on her account, which really surprised me. Dana's mother wrote that they loved Jane's act and disapproved of Dana's actions. My husband and I also made sure Jane was okay with us addressing it on Facebook, and she said it was fine. Normally, I wouldn't use Facebook to address drama if it were aimed at me. But since this involved a grown adult attacking a minor, we felt the need to address it publicly because she disparaged her publicly. Jane will remember whether we stood up for her or not years from now. I had a chance to speak with Dana's mother on the phone since my original post, and she spoke to Dana again. Dana reiterated that she regretted asking Jane to perform, but she harped on the standing ovation, which bothered her the most. Dana told her mother she expected Jane to get some polite applause, but the overwhelming response really set her off. She expected the loudest cheers to come when she and her husband entered the reception, but instead, they went to Jane. Dana and her husband also received a great reception when they entered, but Jane's performance did too, and Dana didn't expect that. Even Jane was surprised by it. She'd never received a standing ovation for a solo act before. Dana's mother believes that if Dana had asked someone else to perform and they received a similar response, Dana's jealousy would have been the same. Someone suggested seeing if Jane would be interested in speaking to a therapist, given how hurtful Dana's comments could be for a teen. Jane said she's open to it as long as it isn't a counselor at school because, for now, she doesn't want anyone at school or her studio to know about the incident. She vaguely told the coach who helped her choreograph that it went fine. We'll respect her privacy request since it's her right to control the narrative. In the same vein, I suggested therapy for Dana to Dana's mother, as her reaction might stem from a deeper insecurity, and she said she'd ask. Another suggestion was the possibility of Dana's husband, or someone else, making an inappropriate comment to Jane during the reception, which might explain why she shut down and avoided friends or practice in the days before Dana's post. My husband decided to ask her, and Jane said no. If something did happen, perhaps she'd feel more comfortable telling a therapist in time. On the bright side, Jane said she might want to try a different aerial studio because she doesn't want to answer questions about how it went or share a video at her home studio. We'll help her find somewhere new as she asked. We hope she doesn't permanently leave her current studio because she has friends and supportive coaches there, and she performs with that studio's troupe at festivals and gigs. However, I completely understand the need to sometimes go somewhere new for a break, and we hope that helps her. She hasn't decided for sure yet, but if she does, we'll support her. She still wants an extended break from aerial in the meantime. Even if when she goes back, she said she may never want to perform again and would rather practice leisurely. That's one reason she doesn't want to return to her home studio, where she's part of their troupe. She asked if we tell her troupe coach that she won't perform with them anymore if it comes to that. If that's what she wants down the road, we will. Hopefully, time heals this wound and helps her at least keep the friends she has there, but all we can do is hope. Second update 1 month later. This is going to be the last time I update, and I want to thank everyone who gave advice. In my last post, I mentioned that Jane said she'd be open to talking to a professional as long as it wasn't anyone from her school, and we agreed to accommodate her. However, she changed her mind shortly after and said she wanted to talk to her coach instead, whom she had been brushing off since the reception and being vague about how it went. She and her coach put a lot of time into choreographing the act for Dana, and she didn't even charge her for the sessions to do so. Her coach is also part of her Circus Studios performing troupe and has always been supportive and understanding. We supported her decision to talk with her coach, and they had an in-person conversation. It was after they spoke that Jane came to me, following her coach's suggestion to do so. I'm going to be somewhat vague about certain details of our discussion. She also asked to speak to me first before we talked to my husband, and that's what we did. Jane opened up about how Dana sent a private message to her Instagram the day after the reception, but to her personal Instagram, not her private circus one. Dana's private message was just as bitter as her Facebook posts but much more hurtful. Dana called Jane derogatory sexual terms in her message, and I can't express how angry my husband and I still are. Jane said she was surprised upon receiving the message. Dana had always been supportive of her craft, even giving her a standing ovation along with her husband. Looking back, Dana probably did so because everyone else was doing the same. Dana also wrote that Jane only received the ovation because they were family who were biased and couldn't tell the difference between a good and bad aerialist. Jane blocked Dana long before we spoke, and she said she was hurt because Dana had been one of the relatives who came up for Christmas early when we hosted some years back, just to attend her studio's Christmas recital, which had surprised her. We all went out to dinner afterward, too. My husband and I tried our best to remind her that Dana's reaction was a reflection of her insecurities rather than anything Jane did. If the best man had given a speech that garnered the same reaction, Dana would have directed her vitriol at him instead. Jane said she understood that it wasn't her fault, but there was more in Dana's message that hurt her confidence, such as bodily comments that were disgusting. She said she might return to aerial at some point, but that she still needs time and is unsure about performing again compared to just doing it leisurely. We told her, among other things, that we commended her decision to speak with her coach and that we'll respect her ultimate decision. Jane also said that she didn't tell us immediately because she wasn't sure if she wanted further drama with Dana if we told her parents about the message. However, after some time, she said she actually wanted us to tell them because she felt that Dana deserved repercussions for it. She said she was surprised that Dana's parents had called her out publicly, on Facebook, without knowing about the message, so that made her feel comfortable with us telling them. Jane also saved a screenshot of Dana's message. While we agreed to tell her parents, we suggested that she delete it afterward because it's not good to carry around hurtful things. She's also still open to speaking to a professional about the other aspects of Dana's message that hurt her deeply, as long as it's no one from her school. We are currently in the process of finding a therapist who can help with some of the insecurities that led to her shutdown in the weeks after the performance. I honestly cannot thank her coach enough, but I just want to touch on a few more things that were suggested in comments. I received a few DMs saying we were just as bad as Dana for addressing her lies on Facebook, so I want to be clear. My husband and I rarely use Facebook, and if someone had started drama with me on a Facebook post, I wouldn't use Facebook to address it personally. I'd opt for a call instead. However, since Dana disparaged a minor publicly with lies regarding costumes we had text proof of her approving, we felt the need to post those messages proving she had signed off on them. We asked Jane if she was okay with it first. The other thing a few people asked was whether her costume was potentially inappropriate. The costume we purchased came from a website that many professional circus performers use, including some who used to be in Cirque du Soleil and tagged the shop while wearing it on their socials, and we've purchased other costumes from there in the past. In fact, some of their costumes have been used in wedding gigs by hired circus performers. Jane's costume also received many compliments, but we're glad Jane realizes that she isn't responsible for Dana's insecurities. This was also Jane's first negative experience in her young performing career. Despite knowing Dana is entirely at fault, her words still hurt because they had been close before this. Jane has kept in contact with her coach since, and she's even considering a different apparatus to take her mind off of silks, which are temporarily tainted for her. We hope that time in therapy will help her with whatever she chooses. Her coach has also floated the idea of organizing a hangout with her troupe completely outside of aerial activities, like a zipline/rope course day, to get her mind off things while spending time with her friends, and Jane said she'd be open to it. Dana's parents also sent Shari's berries for Jane, which was really sweet, and Jane sent them a text to thank them, too. Regarding Dana's parents, I discussed the private message with Dana's mother, and she was even more disgusted than before. She said that she and her husband would deal with it and that there'd be permanent changes to their relationship with Dana until she apologizes, and even beyond that. She also apologized to us on Dana's behalf and said she didn't raise her to be like that. For what it's worth, even before we mentioned Dana's message, she told me that Dana's husband wasn't thrilled with her Facebook post, among other complaints Dana had about the wedding, things I had no clue about. She also mentioned that she's not sure if Dana and her husband will be together much longer due to other issues, but I'll keep this focused on Jane and hope that she comes back to aerial someday, or even chooses a different apparatus if that feels right for her. Third update 1 month later. I didn't plan on making another post, but something incredible happened after my last one, and I couldn't resist. Some time after making Dana's mother aware of Dana's private Instagram message to Jane, Dana's husband reached out to us on Facebook asking if we could have a call, and it was the first I'd heard from him since the reception. After arranging a call, he said he had heard about the effect Dana's Facebook post and Instagram message had on Jane and that he felt terrible about her considering quitting. He said he disapproved of Dana's behavior regarding Jane, among other things post-wedding, that led to him pursuing a divorce. However, upon talking to his father about how Dana's behavior potentially ruined her passion, his parents were equally disgusted and wanted to do something, which led to him reaching out. He said he felt bad about Jane alienating herself from her studio/performing troupe friends as a result of Dana's behavior, and that gave way to an idea. He wanted to ask if Jane would be comfortable performing at a fundraising dinner alongside her troupe if he hired them through the studio so that something good could come from Dana's mess, and he figured that performing alongside her friends would make her more comfortable. He also said that Dana's original Facebook post had become a talking point among many of his friends and relatives who attended the reception and felt bad about Dana disparaging her. My husband and I even received a few Facebook messages expressing support for Jane after Dana's post, but he wanted to do something more. He talked to his father about booking a restaurant/catering space for a fundraiser banquet that would support her circus studio and performers, and the money would go to the studio and a local charity. However, he also wants to give a college donation to the performers and allow attendees to donate to the performers' college funds, as many of them are Jane's age. He said he partly got the idea from relatives who wanted to express support for Jane outside of a Facebook message to us, and some even asked if Jane's performance would be uploaded, which it wasn't for various reasons, Dana's bitterness and him not wanting to post a bad memory for Jane. He said that the event would only happen if Jane was comfortable because he wanted to encourage her to perform again with her aerial friends, and it wouldn't happen immediately as he's trying to work on a divorce. She and her troupe would have time to choreograph, and the banquet would support the local youth in the community along with a charity for a good cause. I told him I would ask and get back to him. And when I relayed everything to Jane, she was excited about the idea of performing with her friends, which made me happy to see her open to it. When I told him her reply, he was happy that something good would come from Dana's mess. He also reckoned that members of his extended family and friends would come because many were upset on Jane's behalf, and we're going to invite our family as well. He asked for our help in booking the studio's troupe, and we told Jane's coach, who has been helpful and in touch with him too. I'll try to make no more than one more update after the event, but I wanted to share this because it came out of nowhere and seems to have reignited Jane's passion. I can't thank him and his father enough. His vision is to allow someone from the charity his father knows to speak early at the banquet. And after that person does, members of the troupe will perform acts as part of a 30-40 minute show, giving each performer a chance to shine before he and his father end the program with monetary donations to the charity, studio, and performers' college funds, before a plate or something is passed so that attendees can donate to the college funds too. It may be a few months until it happens, but I'll try my best to update when it does. I apologize for how long this update was, but I also appreciate everyone who gave advice on my other posts too. Fourth update 3 months 3 weeks later. This will be the last time I update, as we received some questions about what happened. Dana's ex-husband and his father originally wanted to involve a local charity in the event, but those plans fell apart for various reasons, including financial, which led to a pivot. With the charity no longer involved, they decided to make the circus studio the sole charity, with all banquet proceeds going to the studio and performers' scholarships instead. The cost of the venue they had in mind was a little expensive coming off the wedding expenses, so they pivoted to using the studio's space instead, which was free and often used for student recitals. The difference from recitals was that they'd use the money intended for the original venue to promote the event in the community as a way to support local artists. The event would be an open house with giveaways and free trial class sign-ups centered around a performance showcase. They've been able to promote on sites like Eventbrite and even at the library, and they figured that Jane would feel at home in her home studio, where she's done recitals many times. All sales will go through and be organized by the studio, as they've done various events before, like the troupe that Jane performs with at festivals. Members of both our families have committed to attending, and a few who live farther away have opted to donate online and watch the recording afterward. As we are months removed from the wedding incident in November, Jane has still not received an apology from Dana. However, there was a comment someone made that we relayed: sometimes you won't get an apology in life. Jane has come a long way since November but hasn't performed since then. The fundraiser will be her first performance since, and it will take place in July. Dana's mother has stated that she will not attend but will make a donation online, as well as a personal donation to Jane through us. She also stated that Dana will not be allowed at any family gatherings, Thanksgiving and Christmas among others, until she apologizes, and she has already been informed. I also want to add a final nugget that Dana's mother told me about. As Dana continued to not apologize and vent to her, she disclosed another reason that made her upset. When the MC announced the wedding party's entrance into the reception one by one, similar to an NBA starting lineup during pregame introductions for those who don't know, Dana and her husband entered last. However, the MC told everyone to stand and welcome the new Mr. and Mrs. as he announced their entrance into the reception, and that later made her upset. When Jane received the standing ovation following her performance, Dana said that no one told the audience to stand and applaud. They did it of their own volition, and Dana said she didn't think they would have done the same for her and her husband if the MC hadn't told them to stand. Her mother tried to explain that she was comparing apples to oranges, that the entrance and a performance are two vastly different things. But she still hasn't apologized, and I hope she comes around someday. I previously mentioned that I suggested Dana talk to a counselor, but her mother said that Dana wasn't open to it and was simply being immature. She also said there were similar behaviors we hadn't seen inside their family, similar overreactions, but time has helped Jane start to move forward, although she's still torn on performing as a career. Before the wedding, she wanted to perform and teach after high school on the side of a day job, with the hopes of it one day becoming her day job, but she said she's reconsidering long-term. She'll continue to perform with her troupe through graduation and see what happens then, and that's better than her quitting. The very last thing I'll add is personal. Dana's parents are Christians, and they raised her Christian too. I'm not sure whether Dana is or not, but I was raised Christian before I later walked away. Still, there was a verse that came to mind that I shared with Jane, not to push religion, because we don't attend church, but because it's good advice that I thought she could use. Romans 12:15, NLT, says, "Be happy with those who are happy, and weep with those who weep." Building each other up is a good way to live, but she saw how hurtful the opposite can be. On the day it happened, we all thought Dana's wedding was beautiful. Jane was so surprised by the standing ovation, and we talked about it on the way home along with the many compliments she received. Dana's jealousy tarnished it the following day with her personal message, so we hope it also shows her the importance of choosing to be happy for others instead of jealous, because it only takes one negative comment out of many compliments to hurt someone.